Shalom. So today we're going to look at Ecclesiasticus 25 and 22. It says, a woman, if she maintain her husband, is full of anger, impudence, and much reproach. All right. Now, when we look at the Hebrew community, we see a lot of this happening all around us, right? And this is coming from, we have to go way back, because what happens today, if you just look at each individual, you're just going to blame them for the way they are. But we have to go back to the root, right? And this was a strategy that was done to us to put women in power, because this goes against their feminine energy, right? So when a woman, the more she keeps climbing the corporate ladder, what you find is her stress level keeps increasing. So to every door that is open for her is another level of stress that she's taking on, right? So what you'll find is these type of women, they're angry. They're always angry, right? They're always some form of irritation. You speak to them, they just lash out, right? They have a bitterness. They resent a lot, right? And what happens is these different states keep them so depressed underneath the surface, right? So out there in the field, in the work field, they might be putting on a smile, but deep down, they're full of resentment, right? And it says, as it says, anger also, what happens is they are sometimes hard to communicate with, meaning they're very defensive, right? They have a spirit that wants to combat with the man as well, right? As long as that man is not her boss, right? Then naturally she's going to be defensive when it comes on to conversations, right? Even if he's trying to teach her. And this is why it's hard to find that in today's world. It's hard for you to even teach your woman. It's easier for everybody else to teach your woman except for you, right? And that's going to go down to the next part where it says impudence, right? This is how she conducts herself. What happens is that she will not give you the respect that you deserve, because what? That masculinity, right? She's been programmed to stay in a certain way for so long that it has become her new normal. So now she has no respect for her man. So what it's going to do is it's going to prompt her to do what masculine people do. It's the nature of men to go and to have sex, right? Now what happens is, because the woman does not have the respect for the man, she will go and have sex with other men, right? And that is going to bring us to the next part where it says reproach. That brings a disgrace, that brings a form of shame, because it's not the normal thing for women to do, but because they become so masculine, it seems very normal, especially in this Western world, right? Where the woman has been put to the top of the chain, and the men, there are no place for the men. In the work field, in the religious systems, in whatever organization, institutions, the women are on top, right? If you should go back then, when we were just working in the fields, the woman would be at the master's house. We would be out there in the field physically working with our hands, right? Now everything changed. You have the industrial revolution and all of that. Things start to change, right? You have factories and so forth. They need to communicate. So guess what? The women, they have to go to the schools and they work in the office areas, like, and anytime the men in the field wants anything, they have to go to the woman. So it's like we're still under the woman. So that it's coming from way back. It's not something today. So it's not something you're gonna just be with a woman and change that just like that. It took generations to for them to get here, right? So when you understand the causes or the reasons or why they behave the way they behave, then it's easier for you to take one and work with her and try to help her. But first, she has to acknowledge, she has to have the humility to acknowledge that, yes, I feel this way. I feel this bitterness. I feel this resentment. I have all of this anger stored up inside of me, right? So she's going to cheat because that's the nature of, the male species, and she's becoming that, but she just don't know, right? No, self-love. What you'll find is that these type of women, they will love everything else except themselves, right? And the way they'll show love for themselves sometimes is just through retail therapy. They go do shopping, right? So it doesn't matter how they look, as long as they have this nice outfit that gives them a form of emotion, or drive this nice car that gives them a form of emotion, they are okay with that, right? But observe the women in the work field. What you will notice is that they are really out of shape. Observe their stomach, the way they eat. They're just on autopilot. They go to work because they work in the city. They're only fast food. I mean, they're mostly fast foods. That's where they're gonna go, right? So they're fat. They're overweight, right? They're not taking care of themselves. They're not. They don't have a certain diet that they say, okay, this is my diet. This is how I'm taking care of myself, right? I'm gonna stop eating certain things. They don't have that. They don't have that type of care for themselves, right? Going on to the next part, it says bad attitude. Some of them, their attitudes are really nasty, and guess what? It's not only to their men. Sometimes they are so they've been in it for so long that they can no longer discern. So they even have that same attitude towards their children. Sometimes they lash out at their children for no reasons. It's not that the child is really doing something bad or annoying them. They are naturally bitter and have a bad attitude towards everything, right? So anything that is not dealing with the work field and their money, they are naturally in a negative way about it, right? And as you mentioned about the resentment, they're really bitter. And even if they meet a next man that is really good and everything, because they have this thing stored up for so long, it only needs that opportunity to manifest. It's not always that these men are, all broken or all full of problems or worthless or whatever. It's just what climbing the corporate ladder has done to our women. They can no longer fit in back with what is the original way or how things should be, right? We live in a society where what you make is, what determine your status or how you should be treated, and that's really how we are operating, right? Sometimes you can have a man that's very ambitious, but you are making more than that man. It does not change the way how the home should operate, right? It does not alter that. Your finances nothing to do with that, right? This is also why it's not good for a man to. It's not the way it should be for a man to really move into a woman's house, because as you know, when you just get there, she's gonna be excited, want to do everything for you. Yes, you got a man now, but guess what? As the scripture says, a woman, if she maintain her husband, it's not in the nature of woman to be given power or dominion. It goes against your feminine energy, right? So imagine that you are with this woman, very nice, very loving, but underneath she has this resentment, this bitterness, these attitudes, right? And now here comes this man into her house. What do you think is going to happen after a few months? All of those things will resurface. And now she gets her object, she gets her punching bag to release all of these energies onto, right? It's naturally in the man's nature to take a woman to put into his house and take care. That's the natural way. But for a woman to do that, not for long. After a while, they start showing you faces, right? They stop doing things. Maybe they would come and cook you your meal, this and that. After a while, you notice that that's kind of changing, right? They don't really communicate their feelings. They were never taught how to communicate their feelings, right? And guess what? Sometimes they don't mind you being there because of that power and dominion and control. They don't mind having a man that they see as less than them so they can talk down to. So what you'll find is that they will complain every day about all he does is just sit there watching TV, playing video games, eating. But at the same time, they're not doing anything about it. They don't want to change it because arguing or talking down to the man gives them a sense of control, a sense of power or dominion. Right? They have that control, so they don't want to change having a guy that is really no good. And this is why you see what you'll see also with women in the work field who are in autopilot, who are stressed and depressed and so forth. They will just, it's natural for them to have random sex. They have no problems because they go 2 3 months under deep depression or stress or anxiety or whatever. Then they want to release some of that energy and they release it through sex. And as soon as they get that release, guess what? They tell the guy bye bye. And they continue with that cycle. Stress, being masculine, doing this, anger, everything. Meet someone, act all nice. As soon as the sex happens, start to find problems, and it keeps going on and on. Right? This is how much the corporate ladder is destroying, has been destroying our women. Right? And again, they have this thought process that, like I mentioned, that you are defined by what you earn. That is also feeding into their subconscious, makes it even harder. All right. So for a woman to change, the first thing they have to do is to be humble enough to say, yes, I experienced this, I experienced this, I experienced that, and right. And once you can recognize it, then you can do something about it. But if you are in that state of denial where you keep denying that, oh, that's not you, then what? You are going to continue the cycle, right? Everything starts with humility, and yes, our woman, that can be changed, that can be altered, it can be worked on. All right, you can get back into your feminine energy, your feminine element, be that nurturing woman that you're supposed to be. All right, shalom.